Can you tell me your name again?
So my full name is Stephanie Mercedes, but I prefer to go by Mercedes. I moved to DC in 2017 for an artist residency at Halcyon Arts Lab, and it was really this kind of point in my life where I had, for the first time, transitioned into becoming a full-time artist. And I also think that I realized for the first time that I found a place in a city where my artwork truly belonged in. Because I think, I've lived in a lot of different places in my life, and I've practiced my art in many cities. I've been to Buenos Aires, Rio, New York, Seattle, and they're all beautiful places, but my work is unapologetically political. And so I think that my work was really embraced and pushed into a world beyond the art world. And I think that is something that makes me love DC and makes me want to live here forever. So I was approached by the Georgetown BID in COVID-19 had just hit. My studio was completely shut down. I sort of felt like so many of us that it was the end of the world. I wasn't making art, and even this idea of making art was sort of crazy at the time. But I called one of my friends and I said, I have no idea what I should do. But I asked her, I said, what type of artwork would you want to experience right now, in the midst of COVID-19? And she said, I want to lay underneath starry rainbow lights and listen to the sound of collective voices. And I thought that was, really beautiful and appropriate, and also really fit into my practice as a whole. I tend to work with the voice and specifically choirs, acapellas very often. So for this installation, the artwork is called The Weight of a Rainbow. And it's called The Weight of a Rainbow because very often as a gay woman, I think about the representation of queerness and the representation of the LGBTQ plus community to the world. And most importantly, that is very often received by society at large through pride and through queer pride. And I think that, the rainbow in particular has become such a symbol for queer pride and for a way for the external world to understand queerness. And I really think that there is, in Spanish we have this word doble filo, it's a double-edged sword. I think there are so many inherent paradoxes to the rainbow because on the one hand, yes, I love all the things that the rainbow represents. It represents queer love, queer joy, queer freedom. But at the same time, I think in a lot of ways, the rainbow in particular has become appropriated by the heteronormative cis community at large in something that we would call rainbow capitalism. And so I think in this way, it's also very important for the community at large to understand that there is a weight to those of us that carry the burden of a rainbow. And in addition, I think that, pride is also about not only remembering queer joy and honoring queer pride, but also remembering the fact that so much violence has happened in order for us to have events like Pride. But I really think that, the most important thing is as we're in 2021, is that we really think about what does support for the queer community look like? What does support for the LGBTQ plus community? And I think that, does that mean that a corporation hangs a rainbow flag in their lobby for Pride Month? Maybe less so, but does that mean that individuals and that corporation should give money to individuals and to organizations that are truly creating grassroots change and creating space and opportunities and funding for members of the LGBTQ plus community that really are vulnerable? Yes, I think that's really important. And so with the installation, it's 1,200 square feet of programmable LEDs. There's 928 LEDs, which my girlfriend and I made with our own hands. We made the entire installation. And each one of the lanterns is an LED strip, which has 6 soldering points per strip. So that means the whole entire installation has 6,000 soldering points, which we did by hand, all of them. And because I so often am very drawn to working with singers, I sing myself. My background is in music. I was a musician far before I was an artist. I really felt that the best thing to do was to amplify queer voices, because I myself, I really cannot speak for and represent the entire LGBTQ plus community. I only represent, the L and the Q. I decided to work with 8 singers because in the first queer rainbow, there were 8 colors, which felt very important to me. They all self-identify as LGBTQ plus, and I am the first singer in the installation. And so in the piece, there are 8 separate speakers, and each speaker has its own singer. So as you walk underneath the installation, you see these beautiful and brilliant and transformative lights, but at the same time, you're hearing the sound of 8 separate singers. So you really feel like you're walking through this kind of room or this passageway of singers. And so I think that as a result, really the songs and the sound of the installation are much different than the visuals. They're a little bit more haunting, and they really evoke the idea of mourning. They create a space for mourning. And it is this juxtaposition in between the sound and the visuals of the installation that is exactly what I wanted, because I believe it is the inherent paradox that is a rainbow. And that's why the installation is really designed so that you can walk underneath it and slowly hear the change in voices. And so you can kind of experience all these different ideas of a rainbow and these different singers' voice experiences. And so, but public space is so different, and it comes with challenges, but I think at the same time, why I am drawn to create public art as an artist is because I believe that it's so much more accessible to a larger public. Anyone can experience that work, and sometimes people come to experience that work, because they've heard about it and they specifically want to experience it. But sometimes it's just a random person who happens to be in that space, and I think that the work is seen by so many more people, and I think it's so much more accessible because it's not behind the closed doors. And I think that that is the most important thing as an artist. You want your work to be experienced and you want it to be seen.